your child's tantrums. You are here because you are very frustrated and you wish that your child can communicate with you instead of throwing tantrums. So for today's session, I want to answer all your questions about tantrums, as well as to give you actionable strategies that you can try the next time you communicate with your children. All right? So for those who have just joined us, feel free to type any questions related to tantrums inside the comment box. So I will spend about like 5 or 10 minutes telling you about how we can change our perspective about tantrums. Then I'll take questions from there. I think that will be a more fruitful session for many of you. Okay, so if you have any questions, just type it in. All right, so I will just begin. Tantrums are emotional outbursts. We need to remember that. Why did I start my life with this? Because I think a lot of us have this misconception that my kids cannot throw tantrums. Tantrums are bad behaviors. But if you read up about tantrums, if you just do a quick Google, they will tell you it's an emotional outburst. It's a release of how we feel inside us. And even us as adults, we throw the tantrums too. We tell our kids not to, react. We want them to use words to communicate with us, but we end up yelling at them. So why is it so hard? Now, this is just a normal human reaction that when we have feelings in us, when we have pent up emotions, our body wants to help us to cope. And in order to do that, we have to discharge those big feelings for kids and for adults, right? So, okay, interestingly, like when we have our babies, our babies who can't communicate yet, when they start crying, when they start having emotional outbursts and they start crying, what do? We wonder if the diaper is full. We wonder if it's time to feed. Maybe they're hungry. We wonder if the room is too bright, they can't sleep, or we wonder that they need a nap, right? We try to figure out what's wrong. Then when our kids grow up to become toddlers or preschoolers, we expect them to be able to tell us how they feel and what they need. But why don't we do the same for our babies? Because we know the babies can't communicate yet. And guess what? Your toddlers, your preschoolers, they are lacking communication skills too. So we're not being fair to them by making them stop the tantrums. Okay? So this is one thing you want to think about. Why is it that we cannot tolerate the tantrums? It has nothing to do with our children. It has everything to do with us. Because our kids at this age, they're fully capable of experiencing emotions, feeling happy, excited, sad, disappointed, frustrated. But yet, they lack that skills to be able to regulate the feelings. So these skills are developed at the executive functioning brain, which is at the front here, called the prefrontal cortex. And if you do your research, you'll read up and realize that this part is only fully developed at 25 years old. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that your kids will only manage their emotions at 25 years old. It's like this long process that they go through and learn. But we need to be more empathetic to them, okay? So I think you guys must be wondering, so what do I do? What do I do when my kids throw a tantrum? Do I just let him have what he wants? Will he think that it's okay to make a big fuss out of this little incident? So feel free to share your questions with me so I have some context and I can give you better practical advice, okay? So first question here, my nephew gets upset when he doesn't get what he wants. He says, I hate you, you're a bad mom. I hate everyone. How do we help this kid? Okay, so this feeling of sadness is normal. We want to normalize all emotional states. So if your child, this nephew of yours, if he's upset, we want to let the child know, yes, you are very upset. Now, you might be thinking, but he says, I hate you and you're a bad mom. Don't we need to address those? Firstly, let's take a step back to understand why is the child using these words. Likely because he's coming from, a state of dysregulation, not that he truly mean it. So what do? We have to be that informed adult. We have to be that confident parent to understand that this child needs help. And the best way to get the child to calm down is for us to share our calm. So we want to focus on being able to regulate our emotions first so that we can help our kids. So if this child doesn't get what he wants, when we are calm, we can go to him and tell him, you don't get what you want. You're upset. Can you tell me more? So we want to help this child feel seen and heard. Now, after the child has calmed down, then it's easier for you to meet his needs. Now, if it's not possible to get him what he wants, then we have to set the boundary. I know you really want to eat French fries right now. I'm sorry, there are no fries and we're not going to eat it. He's going to be upset. It's okay, let him be upset. These feelings will come and they will go. When he has calmed down, when he's ready, then you address the part about I hate you and you're a bad mom. Let him know, we don't say these words. I know you say it because you were angry. I'm going to teach you what you can do when you are angry. And that's where you equip the child with coping skills. Okay, so I hope this is helpful. Another question by Estek. How can we handle tantrums from very young kids who can't speak yet? Example, 18 months old. Okay, so we talk about how tantrums are emotional outbursts. So for 18-month-old, obviously they cannot tell you how they feel, what they want. Sometimes you have to guess, and you guess wrongly, they get more frustrated because they feel so misunderstood. So for these children, I think the best way is again to share your calm presence as well as to hug the child, to help the child move from a state of dysregulation to co-regulation, and eventually as he grows up to the regulation state. So what you want to do, again, I always go back to my number one tip to manage tantrums. Okay, if you just join us, remember this, my number one tip to manage tantrums is to manage your own tantrums. Once you can focus on staying calm yourself, you stand a better chance to getting your kids to calm down, right? Remember, we say tantrums are emotional outbursts. So we want to bring them from these elevated states of emotional outbursts where they have high levels of cortisol to bring it down, to help them do whatever we can to activate that parasympathetic nervous system so that they don't become reactive. So they don't have to cry and shout and hit just to release the big feelings in them. I hope you can understand tantrums from a more biological or scientific point of view. You know, we want to educate ourselves. In this world, we have access to so much knowledge. Why are we not using this knowledge and putting them to good use? And that is why, you know, I teach parents how you can use this information. Anyway, they are not like rocket science. If you read about them, you learn about them, and you are interacting with your kids every day, you get to practice the strategies every day with your kids, then you are in a better state, you know, to understand your kids and build up this relationship with them. All right. Miss Pamela Wong says, how do we manage tantrums that has resulted into meltdown during mid-sleep at night? My advice is, you can't parent at night. It's so hard because you are so tired, the kids are so exhausted, and most of the time during those tantrums at mid-sleep, you know, it could be because of night terrors, it could be because they're overstimulated in the day. So I think it's important that at that moment, really just hug the child and let the child calm down. There's no way you can like teach what the child should do in the middle of the night. I had these experiences myself. So I remember when my kids were very young, both kids, you know, like just before they turn 1, before they turn 2, at all these milestones, they tend to wake up in the middle of the night and they just cry. Sometimes crying with the eyes closed. And I remember we have to carry the child, go to the living room and just, you know, carry him and sit on the sofa. Sometimes I have to stand up because when I sit down, they start crying again. But all the while, the eyes are closed. So I know it's not really a tantrum. It's just some form of overstimulation, okay? My boy will whine and cry for the slightest thing and anything that doesn't go his way. Yeah, so, you know, for children, right? Okay, I'm not sure how old your boy is, Jing Jing, but generally, right, children, they don't understand why is it that they cannot get what they want. Like, they want something, right? They're very egocentric. So I want it now. Why can't I have it? No, they are not able to empathize and think for others that maybe the other child has a toy and I can't have it yet, or it's not time for screen time and I really want to watch TV. They don't have that concept of time, don't have the concept of understanding how others feel. So this behavior is actually normal, but I'm not saying that we let them be, okay? Why do I want to tell you that it's normal? Because I don't want you to feel like you're a bad parent or your child is, there's something wrong with your child. Please don't think of it that way. It's just normal development, and what we can do to help our kids, you know, who wants things to go their way, the best way is to really share your calm. I know I said this so many times, but when you share your calm, the child will see that it's not an emergency. Then it activates the brain to kind of relax a little, to then get him to listen to what you have to say and connect the synapses to that prefrontal cortex so he can start reasoning, rationalizing, and really accepting and hearing what you're saying. Okay, so this whining and crying could also be your child testing limits. Right? The child wants to see if today, if I cry, will I get the extra chocolate, or do I get to watch TV a little longer? That is why when I teach parents in my course, in module 3, I teach about setting boundaries. It is so important that you don't give in. A lot of people think that, oh, when I address the feelings means I'm giving in, the child will never learn. And this is a huge misconception. When we talk about positive parenting, a big part of it is to set boundaries. If you ask my kids, they know that, there was once I asked my kids, what do you like about me and what do you not like about me? Then they say they don't like about me because I set screen time limits, or the days that I don't let my girl eat sweets. I'm very strict with my boundaries, and I set them very firmly because I want my kids to know they don't get everything that they want. Now, does it happen overnight? No, you just need to be very consistent when you set your limits. So for those who have joined the course, do look out for module 3. By the way, if you have been wanting to find out more, you can always head over to the website or click the link in my bio to learn about how I coach parents and help them transform their families to become calmer. Okay, I'll talk about this once more towards the end, just in case some of you missed it or you don't know where the link is. All right, next question. My daughter is upset when her favorite person leaves, but when the person comes back, she says, beat you, don't like you. Why? Okay, so perhaps you want to tell me how old your kids are when you ask me the questions. It's easier for me to give you age-appropriate advice. So when the child is upset when the favorite person leaves, I think probably that girl has attachment with the children, so with the parent. So children, they learned about relationships, and when they start to feel safe with someone and that person leaves, it's natural for the child to have some kind of separation anxiety. Now then, those kind of behavior are a bit strange, right? Like, why did the child say, I beat you and I don't like you? Again, that comes out from the child's primitive response, not that the child truly mean it that I don't like you. And children, when they say I don't like you, the way we interpret it and the way they interpret it can be very different. So they might say I don't like you, but to them is I'm just angry. Yeah, just that they don't know how to say it out. Okay. Can we help a 1-year-old tantrum? Can we help in a 1-year-old tantrum as they still cannot understand our language yet? So I covered this a little. I covered it earlier on. So about how for a 1-year-old, you just need to help them to calm down as fast as you can. Sometimes, below 18 months, I actually do encourage some form of distraction, like playing with a toy and just helping them to divert their attention below 18 months. But from 18 months onwards, I feel that you can use words, use your body to encourage the child to calm down by, sharing your calm, that's one, and also the words that you say. Okay. All right. Let's see. How do we tried doing that, and he starts hitting his mom. Okay, I think this is referring to the first question. Now let's talk about this hitting part. Okay, I want to address this. It's important for us to know, when children hit, when they hit, right, they are out of control. They need someone to set the boundary. They need someone who is in control. They need someone who is not afraid of their emotions, and that someone has to be us. So we need to be very calm and not join in, the chaos and start hitting the child. When the child starts hitting, hold the child's hand, put the child a distance away from you. You want to stop the child. Now, at that moment, maybe the child will hit harder, scream louder, struggle even more. Now, you need to then decide, release your grip a little, or, hold him, bring him to a safe corner, do whatever it takes based on your relationship with your kids to help the child calm down. This hitting behavior is not something your kids want to do. It's something that is reactive from them. And in fact, it's just their body trying to survive. Yeah, it's just that those emotions are in them. There's so much that they cannot handle. It's overpowering. So the brain will then tell the body, hey, do something. We want to keep the child safe. So it just starts hitting. All right. How do you bring the child from a path of tantrum to calm? Very good question. How do we help our child to move from having these big emotions to not having these emotions? So if you've been listening to me, I repeat this so many times, to share your calm. But of course, easier said than done, right? It takes time. So sometimes you might think, I've already calmed down, I'm not angry, but my child is still dysregulated. So I want you to think of feelings as following this natural curve. It goes up and it goes down. Okay, we won't be experiencing intense feelings all the time. It won't be like a straight line, the graph. No. Okay, sorry, I'm a math teacher here, so everything is like, very numbers and graphs. Yeah, so if you want the child to calm down, you have to give the child some time. You have to let the emotions go through that natural curve, and it will pass. It's like a wave, it will go up and it will come down. For some children, they take a while because naturally their temperament a bit more extreme, and they find it very hard to regulate the emotions. I know it's very hard. Okay, for those of you who have kids who cry for an hour long, I've experienced it myself. Okay, my son goes through that when he was younger, and there's really no way to immediately cut short the cries. You really need to just wait it out. You really need to let that emotions run the full course. So you got to be present. I know your next question will be, but I'm in a rush. How am I going to wait for my child to be calm? So the teaching part, the calming down part, if you can do it at home, that would be wonderful. Find a time where you're not in a rush and you can be with your child, because the more predictable your responses are when your child throws a tantrum, the easier it is for your child to calm down the next time, because your child knows that you are going to be his safe space. You're going to be there to support the child through his big emotions. All right? Eileen says, my kid throws her food and gets upset when she has food that she doesn't prefer on her spoon on her plate. This will, of course, affect the entire meal time. How can we manage or just give up on the meal? Okay, if you already know that she's upset about the food that she doesn't like, then we will have to preempt this situation with your girl. So again, I'm not sure how old your girl is. If she can be part of deciding the menu, the food that is going to be served, you can let her know. She can choose 2 dishes and you will choose 2 dishes, and all this will be on her plate, and she will just eat whatever that she wants. So if you learn about the division of labor for meal times, our job is not to make our kids eat everything, but rather we provide what and when, and they provide they will decide how much they're going to eat. So they decide how much, we provide the what and when. So I know it's very hard, because for most of us, we're worried about our kids' nutrition, but you realize that the more you force, it actually backfires. Like the kids will not want to eat, and the kids start to associate eating with all these negative states of emotions, and it's so much harder to undo it. I know it's very hard because I'm experiencing it myself at home. But I do realize as the kids grow older, as I continue to serve the food, which maybe the child doesn't want to eat, but the more contact and experience the child, and interaction the child has with the food, is much easier for them to switch. So again, lots of information about picky eaters. You can read books about it. I think books are a great way for you to find out some of the strategies that you can help your child with. Okay? All right. I think, okay. Spirit Saint says, even when he doesn't want to blow bubble or finger breathe. Now, I like that you tell me this, that you taught him to blow his bubbles or breathe with the finger like that. Okay, that's what I do with my girl. Now, it doesn't apply to all the kids, but you have to teach. Why do I say so? Because when you teach, they are absorbing, they're learning. They may not do it, but during certain moments when they are like desperate, they don't know what else to do, they have strategies to fall back on. So I remember when I teach my son, right, to tap his fingers when he, this is a brain strategy to calm down. This is what I teach my secondary school kids to. So we call it a form of brain gym, calm down. Then there was once he was in class and he said that he was very upset. This boy kept disturbing him and he couldn't tell the teacher. He told me he did this. I didn't expect him to know what to do. Like I would think that he will rely on his natural way of like pushing the boy or what, but he actually told me he tapped his fingers. And if I didn't teach him that, will he know? No, he would not. So it's important that we equip our kids with these skills. Like I think in the past, at least for me, I didn't grow up knowing how to manage my emotions. I'm not sure about you guys. Did you? Maybe you can share with us. But most of the time, I think that our generation of parents didn't know how to do it as well. But now we know, we have the knowledge. So why don't we teach our kids how to manage their emotions from a young age? Then you can really change the way they communicate and work through self-regulation skills. Okay? All right. How to teach kids to express their anger without hitting, shouting, screaming, being rude, or throwing things. Now, this is emotional regulation skills. There are many ways you can do that. For those who have signed up for my emotional regulation workshop, I share with you like 20 plus ways to do it. Okay, so some of the ways include drawing, all right, rating. So on a scale of 1 to 5, can you tell me how angry you feel? Okay, this rating thing works so well. I do it with my kids all the time. Until one day, I heard my son, because my girl, she accidentally knocked her leg on the side of the bed. And I saw my boy went to her. And he said this, from 1 to 10, how pain is it? I got shocked. I was in the toilet, I remember. And I realized that he's learning from me how I manage pain, frustration, disappointments. Because I do it and he learns from it. You are the best role model for your kids. If you want your kids to manage their anger well, you have to firstly manage your own anger well. You got to show them how you can deal with the frustration in you, the disappointment and the rage in you. If you don't do it the right way, right, like by not shouting and screaming, then they're going to just copy what you do, because when you yell, they think that that's the way to solve the problem. Like because we can't get our kids to do what we want, we yell. So our kids will learn, if I want something, I can yell. All right. So other ways. So I mentioned about the rating, drawing, breathing, making it fun, like blowing bubbles earlier we mentioned, or blowing candles on the cake. You can ask them. To my girl, she always blow 5 candles. All right. Sometimes we'll blow backwards again, so 10 candles. And yeah, that is how you can teach the kids. All right. My 4-year-old girl always promised not to throw tantrums. We had a lot of talks, but sometimes she just went crazy and threw tantrums. Well, you know, what are tantrums, right? I'm going to go back to the beginning. The emotional outburst is an explosion. And it's something that a 4-year-old girl has no capacity to manage, to regulate. If your 4-year-old girl can regulate the emotions at that age, I think that is amazing. I'm not saying that the 4-year-old cannot, but probably not all the time, because that's how our brain works. You cannot force a 4-year-old brain to be as developed, as well connected, the synapses are well connected as an adult brain. How is that possible? How are you going to change your kid's brain by getting her to promise? You know, she cannot even manage her impulses. Like maybe you tell her, if you don't throw a tantrum, I'll get you a chocolate. But at that moment, she really wants the chocolate, but she cannot regulate. It's just overpowering. So in the end, the body will take over. The body will take over and get her to throw a tantrum. So when we say we want them to promise not to throw a tantrum, it feels like throwing tantrum is a bad behavior. But can I just remind everyone here listening, tantrums are not bad behaviors. Tantrums are normal emotional outbursts. It's a way of coping. Tantrums is a way for kids to cope. Now, what if this girl, okay, for example, this 4-year-old girl, she doesn't throw the tantrum. What happened to the emotions? They stay inside. They can't come out. They have to go somewhere, right? So they stay in the body. So they stay in the body, accumulate. Mommy said, I cannot throw the tantrum. I'm going to keep it inside me. Okay, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to pretend that it doesn't exist. This is the start of how mental issues come about. That there's nowhere the emotions can go, they just stay inside. Children internalize it. It becomes their inner talk, their self-talk. I cannot throw a tantrum. But is that what we want? Don't we want our kids to have a healthy, emotional state? Don't we want them to be able to share everything with us? So this 4-year-old is throwing a tantrum to communicate with you. That Mommy, Daddy, I cannot use words. I don't know how. It's just too much feelings in me. So what we want to do is to teach our children that they can override this urge to explode by teaching them the coping skills, by being there for them, holding space for them, to letting them know that it's okay, you can release. You're only 4, you can release. But as we go on, I'm going to teach you how. And as the child grows older, the child will better be able to manage the tantrums. Okay? All right. Let's see. Distraction, example, changing topic and finding a toy seems to help when the kid has tantrums, but for not getting what he wants. But I'm not sure this is the right way. Any thoughts? All right. So if you came earlier, I spoke about how if it's 18 months old and below, I think distraction is still fine. But 18 months old and above, I don't think we want to keep distracting the child, because the child is going to reach an age where they are not going to be tricked by you. So the child will know that, oh, you are giving me another toy to play because you don't want me to have the first toy. But they're very intelligent. Once they know that, they'll just switch back, want the first toy again, and start throwing tantrums again. So why do you want to keep avoiding the problem? Why don't we just get the needs met for our kids? Why are they throwing a tantrum? What are they trying to tell you? What are their needs? Maybe they miss you. They want to spend time with you, and you are constantly on your phone. They don't get your attention. But when they throw a tantrum, you put down your phone, you look at them in the eye. Wow, if I'm a kid, I would do that. Because when I put my phone down, when I cry, my parents put their phone down and come to me. Or, if I snatch a toy from my sibling, my parents will come and join us. You see? So you need to first understand the needs of your kids. Or maybe your child is feeling out of control. All humans, we have this hardwired need to be in control. Okay, I'll talk more about this tomorrow. So you can come for tomorrow's IG Live, where we talk about defiance, we talk about strong-willed children, we're going to talk about power struggles. Yeah, but if you can identify the needs of your kids, maybe the child feels out of control, you can offer age-appropriate control throughout the day. Okay, so again, this is in Module 3. For those of you who have joined from Yelling to Connecting, which is my 4-week online course, you will access the module. Module 3, Lesson 2, I talk about what type of choices you can give that teaches them problem-solving skills. How are you going to communicate with them? What are you going to say to your kids, when they don't get what they want, or when what kind of choices you're going to give them? So you need to understand what your kids need. Then you can meet their needs so that you solve the underlying needs and they won't manifest as any other behaviors. Okay? So don't just address, the tip of the iceberg. We keep trying to stop them from crying, but if you don't meet their needs, then they will do other things to get their needs met. Like fighting with their sibling, arguing, refusing to put on their socks, doesn't want to eat, throwing food on the floor. We want to figure out why are they doing that. Kim Doodle D asked how we shall calm and help the child calm down when we are pressed for time. This is what I answered just now, right? When it's a morning rush and there's no excess time. So unfortunately, if you're early in the morning you're pressed for time, and this is the first time you're managing the tantrum, you might just have to carry the child along with you, carry a crying child, head out and do what we need to do. But the teaching comes later when the child is back home. Talk about what's going to happen in the morning. Make sure you have some kind of morning routine so that when there's more predictability, there's less anxiety. And also do some pretend play for the mornings. Okay, you can just pretend to use a stuffed toy and get your child to show you what do you have to do in the morning. And of course, try to wake up earlier if possible. If you know that it's always a mad rush in the morning, then we wake up earlier. We try to, fix it. Okay? Should we let them know the tantrums? Should we let them throw the tantrums and let them calm down themselves and address the problem? Yes. So we let them throw the tantrums and we let them calm down. Then we can effectively help them to meet their needs. Okay? I know it's not easy at all, because when we hear tantrums, most of us will be triggered and we feel like we need to stop it immediately, because when we're younger, nobody allowed us to continue to cry or let us throw the tantrum. So we are so not used to doing it. But we can change. We can break that cycle. We can change the narrative about how we help our kids with their emotional well-being. Okay? So we can learn to tolerate the cries if you understand, if you can change your perspective, if you equip yourself with knowledge. All right. Okay, so there's a question about the course as well. What's the course fee? There are a lot of nuances in there, so I suggest you go to the website. You can click the link in my bio to find out more about what is covered and what are the course fees. Okay, so anyway, the early bird bonus ends tomorrow, 2 days later. So yeah, so sign up as fast as you can. Okay, hard to keep boundaries when the in-laws keep coming to the picture. Okay, it's 10 o'clock, and this thing about parents and parents-in-law, I'm going to start talking about it for a long while. Okay, but I just want to try to keep it as short as possible. With your in-laws, all right, it's not their fault. They want the best for the grandchildren as well. It's just that when they were parenting, they were not equipped with this knowledge. Okay, so now when you are parenting, your in-laws will naturally come in with whatever knowledge they had because of how they were parented, and they will start to come in. All right, so this is where you want to tell your parents-in-law about how you're going to take over, okay, from the situation. You want to, the best way, remember I said I want to cut the story short, right? The best way is to model how it's done. Now, if they want to be the one disciplining the children, you can let them know that respectfully, of course, right? This is my child and I'll take over. I'll do it. Bring the child to another room. It's going to be hard. Of course, we can try to educate our parents and parents-in-law, and if they're receptive, that's wonderful. Okay, send them articles, send them videos, let them watch the Facebook videos or YouTube. But if they're not receptive, then we don't want to waste our energy to try to keep changing their mindset. I rather you channel the energy to your kids and teach them how to manage themselves, how to regulate, like equip them with skills. Okay. Is it normal for a 2-year-old to have a tantrum and cry non-stop for 1 to 2 hours? Okay, I won't say it's normal for up to 2 hours, but up to 1 hour I've heard of it. So I think for this 2-year-old, okay, if I'm not sure how many of you have 2-year-old kids, this is the age where they go through a lot. Like they have 1 million synapses per neuron forming in every second. So what does that mean? It means that there are a lot of changes happening. Their bodies are telling them to do it. You can do it yourself. You can tie your own shoelace, or you can put on your own socks yourself. But yet the parents say, no, I'm going to do it for you. Now, can you see that is a conflicting kind of instruction given to the child's brain? So what's the child going to do? The child is learning how to understand their listen to their parents, be good kid, but yet want to listen to their body, and learning how to communicate, learning how to manage emotions, learning fine motor skills, learning so many things at one time. So that is why people think that they are having a terrible tools. But really, they are having a very hard time themselves. There's so much going on. And we know it because of brain research. Because we know that, when we do MRI scans, we can see all the synapses connecting so much at 2-year-old. You can just Google 2-year-old synapse density. You can see that it is the greatest at 2 years old. Okay, so anyway, back to that. If it's really like for 2 whole hours at a peak, right? Like there are no ups and downs, then perhaps you might want to, check in with the PD and see, like, is there anything that you need to look out for? Okay. Alright, okay, let me try to finish this up. Ijin says, 9-year-old threw quiet tantrums when we said no to buying Ben and Jerry's. When I told my daddy we need to acknowledge his feeling, but he said end up we'll always get what he want on another day as we give an option after. Okay, so there is a difference between acknowledging feelings and allowing the behavior. So I talked about yes to feelings and no to behaviors. So you can allow the child to be upset or through quiet tantrums, but you can still not offer the ice cream. That is possible. I know some of you might be thinking, how is it done? Yes, it can be done. With the research, with books, with how people have been trying out and doing research for how we authoritative parenting style, it has the best outcomes in children, because when we acknowledge the feelings, children feel seen and heard, right? They feel understood. And at the same time, when we set boundaries, they learn what are the lines they cannot cross. And if we can coach them and help them, then the children will learn problem-solving skills, and they will know what else they can do. Think of alternatives, have forward thinking, planning. And these are actually the skills that we want to teach our kids, right? We want our kids to be resilient, responsible, to be kind, and that is how we need to work on the emotions part and yet set the boundaries, okay? Which is what positive parenting about, and it's also the cornerstone of how I teach parents in my course. You want to do the connection well so that you can do the teaching later. Okay, I'm going to just have to choose a few more because I think we're going to end this very late. Okay, let me try to find a slightly different question, okay? Alright, 3.5-year-old gets very excited and hyper often. It will often escalate to throwing toys for fun, pushing and biting younger brother. How to manage it? Okay, so toddlers, actually children in general, they have a lot of energy in them. So the body will want to try to help them expand the energy. Alright, it's not their fault that they are moving. It's the body's need that they have to move. So for example, like children who cannot sit still in class, it's because a part of the body is trying to compensate for the energy that they need to expand, right? So what we can do in this case, if the child gets very excited, we will start practicing with the child ways to calm down. So for example, you can, when a child is excited, you can hold the child and look at him smiling and tell him, you are very excited right now. Okay, let's take a deep breath. Let's try to calm ourselves down. Okay, of course, we provide opportunities for them to expand energy. So bring them to the playground, bring them outdoors, let them jump on a trampoline. There'll be moments where when the child needs to calm down, like during dinner time or it's time to wind down for a bit, you really need to bring the child to you. Calmly share your calm and tell the child it's time for bed. Okay? There's one thing that I teach in my emotion regulation course, which is also from Daniel Siegel. He talks about flipping the lid. Kids feeling too excited, all right? This is what I teach my kids as well. So I tell them sometimes you are almost flipping the lid, you are crossing the line, and that's where you need to learn how to come back down. Mommy and daddy will be here to ground you back down, okay? Pushing and biting younger brother is not, we don't tolerate that. So we cannot allow aggressive behaviors because that is not safe, right? Our job is to keep our kids safe. So I will then bring the younger brother and the big brother apart to let both of them calm down first. Sometimes it will just be on my right and on my left, not apart as in like different rooms. I always feel like when siblings have some conflicts, the more we separate them, the harder is it for them to work through these differences, okay? Okay, I will just take one last one. So sorry, there's so many questions. I wish that I can answer you. All right. Let me see. Okay, there's this other mom who says, is it normal for 2-year-old to have meltdowns for 2 hours? So this is another parent saying that the 2-year-old have meltdowns for nearly 2 hours. So is it normal? I don't know. We don't have the numbers. But if it's too extreme, do check with the teacher, okay? All right. Let me see. Last one. Okay, since I'm talking about tantrum, let's just summarize with this question. Okay, tried to teach my 4-year-old to calm down. He refused to blow the candles. Hugged him and he struggled out, hit his head on the floor and started blaming the adult. Meltdown even more. Okay, so this is where I also want to add. Some kids don't like physical touch. Now, imagine, all right, you are arguing with your partner and you're very angry with him or her, and your partner says, come, let me hug you. Will you want that? I'll be like, no, go away. I'm very angry now, right? So it works for our kids as well. Some kids just don't like the hug. In fact, I talk about these coping skills, right? You guys need to know also the right time to implement the skills, because when the emotions are pretty intense, sometimes you just have to say nothing. You just have to sit by your child and just wait it out. Because you realize that no matter what you say, obviously you don't want to reason with your child, because it definitely will not go into the brain. You don't want to label the feelings at that time. You don't want to hold the child's hands. You don't want to ask your child, blow candles, because the emotions are really at its peak. Okay, so we wait a little while. We just be beside the child, hold space for the child. When you can sense that the child starts to calm down a little, that's where you can start these strategies. Okay, then if the child doesn't like touch, we give the child the space, and it's okay. Now, if the child starts hitting his head on the floor, you have to hold the child back. We always prioritize safety. Hold the child back. The blaming adult part is what I mentioned earlier on. It's out of his primitive brain. We don't take it personally now. We will teach later. Okay, there's so many things that we want to teach our kids, right, in the moment when they act out. But you can't be doing everything at the same time because they don't have the brain capacity to try to absorb and process everything you say. So firstly, you want to calm yourself down, share your calm, and make sure that kids are safe. Then after the child goes in, even the child goes into a further meltdown, it's fine as long as the child is safe. So remember the curve of the emotions, right? It's this wave, it goes up and it will come back down again. So our job as parents is not to remove the waves, but teach our kids how to ride these waves. So you cannot remove the big emotions from them. You cannot remove anger, frustration, or disappointment from them. You can't, because they're going to experience this somehow in their life. So instead of trying to remove the emotions and stopping the behavior, why don't we equip them with skills to learn how to manage it so that they can connect that synapses in their brain, and the next time it happens, they remember how it was done and they will try. Okay? Thank you for being here. I just want to do a shout out once more that we are open. From Yelling to Connecting is our 4-week course, so feel free to head over to the website, click the link. If you have further questions, you can always reach out to me. Alright, I wish you have a good night, and I'll chat with you tomorrow for our next IG Live. Bye bye.